I want somehow to not bash either side, but bring it together, because what we need for humanity is the truth as we know it, and then to evolve and innovate to be even better.
Absolutely.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Christina Rahm, and I am with Sarah, and I'm so glad you're here. I want to tell you how I really wanted to develop this relationship, so you coming in meant a lot to me. And then I'm so excited. I'm rearranging things because I want to be at Dragonfly and your events that you're doing for wellness. We always say at this company, wellness and greatness, right? Because we're trying to make people's life the better if we can. Not everyone wants to have a better life, but you try to touch people that you can. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your past, and I know some of it, but I want our audience to hear it, and then what you're doing now to really change the way people are perceiving and experiencing life as well.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. It is truly a delight to get to spend this time with you. And I'm really excited to have you be part of Wellness Week in Boulder, Colorado this October. So you want me to start with my background?
I want to hear, because I want to give some context, because one of the things that happened when I met you is when you were telling me a little bit about your past, I'm like, oh, now I understand a little bit. So, and we connected so much because we had the same beliefs. Yeah. And I want to get into some of that too. But yes, I'd like you to tell a little bit about your history as well.
Great. Okay. I think what's most important to say is that I trained as a home birth midwife, and the midwives, that's an apprenticeship model training.
Yeah.
And what the midwives taught me is to trust the body and to trust the process. So I've done I've had the privilege to do a lot of extraordinary things in my career.
I bet.
And it ultimately comes back every time to trusting the body and trusting the process. Everything I do is about that. It's about sharing that with the world. So
that's amazing. So you took that experience and that education, and I just want the audience to know this. So I've had formal education in the United States. I have a master's of science. My first doctorate degree was in psychology. I went back, to Harvard and Cornell, but I've also done education across the country, like in Africa, or across the world, country, even world.
Yes.
I mean, I did an online education, and I also did in person. I helped develop the medical programs in Africa. And at one point I was criticized for that from my business partners and the media. Largely, I honestly think because I'm a female, and because my husband never has to justify his education, which is, and he has a bachelor's in humanitarian services. But for me, I was like, how much education am I supposed to have? And I want to say this. It is different getting an education in other countries. That doesn't mean it's worse. It is different being educated in alternative medicine in different ways. Doesn't mean it's not worse. It's worse. In fact, it can be better. And it's really an adjunct. It's a continuum of care, right, in life. Absolutely. A lot of the current educational resources that we have in this world are isolated to that country, which leaves out everything else. Or they're isolated to that belief. So if you look at the history of medicine, and you really look at where psychiatrists, like you look at Freud and all the ones that were doctors, that were scientists, they were really like psychologists, right? Psychiatry. But they understood that the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect of life related and actually is directly correlated to your physical health. So I love your education. When you told me that on the phone, I was like, that is so great. I have so many questions about it. And that education and ability is so important, because giving a natural birth. So I didn't do that my first, I did that my first child. Let me just say that. I did not have any kind of medication or anything. I did not have a midwife, but it was a type of midwife that was in the room for my second son, because I was in San Diego. So I went from Florida to San Diego, LA. I just, you have more of the alternative approaches in some of those cities. But I think it's wonderful to do that. And I told you this on the phone. I also think that if you have to go to a hospital or you have to go to a traditional medical doctor during that, you can't leave that out. Like, I've had friends on one side make a decision to never, ever be treated, by an antibiotic or by any kind of medication. And sometimes you need a combination of both.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest detriments to our culture of health here in the United States is this idea that there are silos and separation is occurring in both the alternative and complementary on that side of the spectrum, as well as on the conventional side. And then, of course, like the separate divide, which people are coming together.
They are.
Over the past 25 years that I've been in this industry, I'm happy to say that I'm seeing a lot of progress. But there's still quite a bit of...
I want to work with you on that. That was one of the things that fascinated. And I really want you to get to know Gabriel, because he runs he's one of the main people over the Science Pontification Academy, and he does the World Changer Summit. He brings scientists together in both traditional and non-traditional. Like Dr. Todd's here, he's from Johns Hopkins, but he also has, like me, been trained all over and done different things. And to me, if we can do this, because here's the thing, with traditional medicine, there's this belief that if you don't have this particular education, then you don't know what you're talking about. So you have to have this diploma. And it's so interesting. My mother used to say this all the time to me. When you get to heaven, Christina, God's not going to look at an award or he's not going to look at if you won homecoming queen or if you got a degree or whatever you've done. He's not even going to look at that. But in this world, we judge someone based on their education. Some people do, right? Yeah. But then on the other side, I told you what's a struggle for me is I do believe people need to be educated in certain things and not make a claim that could hurt people because they're not saying the right thing. I mean, it really bothers me because...
Absolutely.
Now, on the flip side, pharmaceutical and biotech companies shouldn't either, right?
That's right. We do have the problem on both sides.
You have the problem on both sides.
Yeah.
I don't really think, just so you know, I don't think it's the doctors that are really the issue on the traditional side as far as any incorrect information, because they're learning, from the pharmaceutical and biotech companies, and they're traditional learners typically, unless they go into PhD research, and doctors are needed to save the world, but midwife practitioners are too.
Yeah.
I mean that. So I want somehow to not bash either side, but bring it together, because what we need for humanity is the truth as we know it, and then to evolve and innovate to be even better.
Absolutely. And I think the third variable here, to bring it to triangulate, the most important variable is the individual. Ultimately, the thing we all share in common is a goal to heal and maintain health for individuals. At the end of the day, it's about you, it's about me, it's about my mother, your mother, our best friends, our children.
It is.
It's everyday, real-life people that we're all here to serve and care for. Yeah. And somewhere in this dialogue, often contentious dialogue about how or who, we're leaving out the most important, which is the individual.
We are.
So
what's best for that individual?
That's right.
Yeah.
And what the midwives taught me, and even though I never became a practicing midwife, I went into media and publishing and started a school to train midwives. Yeah. I will always, it will always be very near and dear to me that it's the woman having the baby. Yeah. It's the family that is the container for this new life coming into the world. And it's not about having power over the woman. Yeah. It's about showing the woman her own power, bringing a woman fully into her power, especially when you're having, in the childbirth context, this is a rite of passage. Yeah. I think something that we're talking about more and more, but we still maybe aren't naming specifically, is that any kind of, almost any situation that lands you in a hospital or with a doctor is a rite of passage. Yeah. So many people are overcoming chronic illness, thankfully more and more. Yeah. And these are transformative moments. These moments break you down, and they also break through to the other side. And they ramp you up.
Well, we know this, right? Yeah. Every time you go through a stressful situation or a health situation, you overcome it. You actually can use that. And again, I relate this back to God. I think I relate everything, like the more you can overcome, the more you learn. Yes. And the more in my opinion, you're held accountable. Yes. And responsible, because that means you're strong enough to handle it, because you just overcame that. And who gave us the power to overcome this, right? Yes. So I look at it spiritually. and I think I'm really different. I used to be criticized in some of the environments I worked in, and I don't even know if criticized is a word because they were my friends and coworkers. But I was very different because in some of the situations I've been in my life, there was zero spiritual belief because in some occupations, when you're able to solve a lot of things, you think you are God or you think you know better, and which is a misunderstanding. But for me, it always humbled me to think, oh my gosh, God has given this gift. Because I believe if you have an ability, whether it's media or creativity or design or health or medicine, that's a gift, right? And we all need to use that individually for what we're supposed to do. And I really want to say this too because I worked in the pharmaceutical biotech world and I loved it. And I am criticized because I say I loved it. And I saw the good and the bad. I just want you to know that. Just like in this world, I do.
There is always good and always bad.
There were really good people.
Yes,
they took care of me so much that I had someone that could travel with me and help me with my kids, right? They provided everything possible. And we really did have the goal of helping patients and doctors. It's like I just talked to Gabriel about the Vatican. In any organization, in any institution, there's really good people usually.
Yes.
And then there's some people that maybe they don't have the right intentions. And those people give that organization a negative name. We actually had some people that were invited because I do a lot with I'm on the board of the World Changers Summit, which is part of the Vatican, and then their nonprofit, which is actually going inside of the Vatican. And it's just scientists who are working together on different projects. So there's like one project with malaria. There's different things we're doing. We're doing a water project and other things with them as well. But we had some people from the United States that were invited to the biohacking conference, and they wouldn't come because it wasn't their conference. And they said they own the name, and why is someone else using the name? And I've used the word biohacking in different things because I'm a nanobiotechnologist, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, no one owns that name. It's like me saying I own vitamin C. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just a word, like you said.
Yeah.
But I think what I like about it is if we could, I wish we had something that said, to me, it's about innovation and evolving as a person. Because I'm like you, I relate it back to each person.
Yes.
And that's a segment of things that can happen, and everyone's different.
Yeah. Well, it's very externalized, this idea. It gives us a mental picture. So we all understand that a computer can be hacked, that our phone can be hacked, and it takes something that is actually quite negative. If
it really
this is something you want to avoid, having your phone hacked, or your computer system hacked, and flipping it on its head and turning it into the positive of hacking your biology. It ultimately is about taking control of your biology, which is at the most important level, again, about recognizing the power of your own body, that we are intrinsically designed for health, and that in order for us to be healthy, 75% of chronic illnesses can be avoided through simple lifestyle changes.
Simple life. Thank you for saying that, because actually
we're talking about what you have for lunch every day, day after day.
Yeah,
this matters.
Yeah,
and biohacking brings us back to that. And if people want to call it biohacking, that's great. If they want to call it biosyncing,
but no one owns it. I'm just going to tell you, it's like no one owns science, no one owns medicine. I mean, you can own a patent. I invent patents, so I own that,
true.
right?
That's
so you can,
true.
but the other stuff and trademarks, and copyrights. But like, there's certain words that you can't own because.
And why would you want to?
I don't know, but I wrote a book with Gabriel that 2 years ago that's in the Vatican on biohacking. Great. And I forgot the exact name. He could give you the name. I don't know if they pushed it out from the Vatican or if it's still there, what they're doing with it. But I wrote some of the chapters of the book. And I enjoyed writing it, but I kind of took the perspective that we're talking about and how every individual, and I actually said biohacking can be a negative word, because here's the truth.
That's right.
You hack into a system and you do something wrong. That's why I'm so sensitive. To me, that's not a marketing word, right? If you're going to talk about that word, let's talk about science, because the problem is I don't want to ever do anything talk about anything that could hurt someone.
Yeah.
I don't want to act like an expert in something I'm not. So I'll give you an example. I am not a fashion designer. I've been called a fashion designer, just like in Forbes magazine it said I grew up in a plantation. I did not grow up on a plantation.
No.
I grew up on a farm. Let's just put it in
impossible.
perspective. My mom was so upset about that. She was like, "Did you say you grew up on a plantation?"
Unless you really hacked the longevity thing and aren't making that known.
Well, she goes, "Christina," and we do actually at our house, because I grew up in Missouri.
Yeah,
and
me too.
But I'm in the Boot Heel. We
Okay.
talked a little bit
Okay,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I'm in
yeah.
the bottom,
Yeah.
south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Oh, yeah.
So during the war, of course, it was divided. Of course, you and I were not in the war.
Yeah.
No one I know in my family was in the war, right? But the house we bought had been there in the 1800s, so there was a chicken coop out back, and then there was where the people that worked on the farm
Yes.
stayed. And then actually my family, I was part of when my grandparents, they had migrant workers that came in from Mexico and stuff like that. But now we call it the man cave. It actually, a tornado hit it and we were redoing it. So it's fine. But I never grew up on a plantation.
Right.
And I'm just going to say this. The truth is there's lots of things that are misunderstood or
Misinterpreted, misused, yeah.
Miscommunicated.
And words do matter.
So
Words
that's
really do
why words matter.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I couldn't take back the Forbes article. There's nothing I can do.
nothing
I
you
had to
can do.
explain it to my mother, who's 81 or 82. I always forget her exact age, and I don't know if she'll ever forgive me for it. She's a wonderful, beautiful person. Why did that hurt my mother? That hurt my mother because she would never want anyone to think she was like that, right?
That's right.
And I don't either, you know? And it's just one of those things. But the media or marketing can sometimes, and I want people to know this, and I know you know this, they can hurt people if you say something that's not true
Absolutely.
or false.
Yes.
It can be a lot graver than my mother being upset because someone in Monaco where it was published thinks that, right?
Yes.
And I think the reason that word was used, by the way, it was Forbes Monaco.
Yes.
And they think differently because they're not here, you know, in the United States. So maybe that's a word they still think we have here. We don't actually have plantations here anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And a couple of the things that you touched on there are actually really relevant to what we are evolving at Dragonfly and what's also happening at Wellness
I'm
Week
so
that you're going
excited
to
I
be a
get
part
to be
of.
a part of this. Yeah.
So,
you know, you don't know this, but when we talked, I was like, okay, get all this stuff on. Let's look at my board. You'll have to go have you been in my office? Please go in my office. It should be on there. If it isn't, you need to say to Stephanie, Christina asked you to put this on here. It's the 12th and the 13th, right? Or the third, what day?
it
12th
is
through the 15th?
October 16th to the 20th.
October
And,
16th to
yeah,
20th.
You're on
Yeah.
for the 17th and 18th.
Yes, because I
Yes.
think I have to go with No, before that event, I have to be meeting with some prime ministers and presidents with Gabriel.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for making your way.
Oh, no,
to
I
Boulder
don't
for
mean it
this.
like that. I
do.
had to tell
It's
Gabriel,
incredible.
and then Gabriel just informed me that he had to change his schedule because of me. He was just like, Christina, we changed the schedule.
Amazing.
But because I think it's really important what you're doing. I
you.
think when I connected with you and your goals are aligned with mine, your mission is aligned with mine. And I could tell by watching you on the Zoom and talking to you, you truly, this is your mission, to try to
Yeah.
do what's right for people.
Yeah. And as a publisher and an owner of a media company, it's really important to me that we get it right, that
Yeah.
we are, and I'm very aware that the way that we build our media, the stories that we're telling through
Yeah.
media have an impact on the creators, on the people who are being featured,
Yeah.
and also on the viewers. And it's quite a big job, actually, to
Yeah.
create a media company. And
I bet.
having people like you come into my orbit really makes it feel, it keeps me aligned with the divine purpose of what we're doing here.
Well, having you come into my world keeps me aligned.
Yeah.
So I can get unaligned. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I lose perspective sometimes. I'm like, wait a minute, what am I supposed to be doing? What is so important here? And we just talked about it. We had a meeting this morning because we're getting ready to go into manufacturing, which was my goal, just so you know, in the beginning, because my goal was to create formulations and things where I could take the toxins out of seeds, plants, and oils, have understanding the water solutions, understanding technology, where we would have something that was really healthy. I'm just going to tell you, the things I create, it's like food, right? And I clean it. And that's what people are always like, can I take this when I'm on this medication? And the doctors and even functional med, And alternative medicine doctors, they don't understand because there's so many nutraceutical products out there that do different things. But what I did, there's basically the base product, which is Clean Slate, because I do completely understand that you have to clean the inside of the body. And I'm not allowed to say that I'm cleaning the cells because I can't say that. I'm not allowed to say that I'm crossing the brain barrier. I mean, the government, everyone knows I'm a nanobiotechnologist, right? But and I don't need to claim that. What I simply say is I'm trying to clean the body so that people can be healthier. And the truth is you could use a lot of other nutraceuticals along with that. If I could give the gift of Clean Slate to every person I know, I'm being very honest. I've even said to my husband, you don't know this and most people don't know this about me. I met Clay through John Sally, and I went into a lab. I went into a 4-day process where I had studied everything about zeolites. I go into this meeting, and they're like, we have to have this done. I made a really critical error, to be honest with you. This group that I didn't know asked for a favor. And I felt, and they basically not begged, but they were like, we have to have help. We don't have anyone. And I was like, listen, I don't have any of my stuff here. I do have a pretty good memory, but I'm like, how am I supposed to write this 50-page patent? And they needed it done by midnight. It was 12 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under pressure,
Under pressure. And why would I do that if I don't know this group? But Clay happened to be there. And Clay's pretty persuasive. We both really regret this, that he taught me into it.
Okay, yeah.
So I wrote it, but writing a patent's one thing.
Yeah.
Then going into a lab to develop it is another thing.
Yep.
So then I flew to Florida and I worked for 4 days. I've changed that, what I did since then. So
What did you regret? What did you regret there?
Well, because the group that I wrote it for and other people, so everyone wants my patents because the patent was really good, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was nuclear waste, it was reversal of aging, it was regeneration. And since then I've done additional ones because if you think about it, I was in the blind, just reading everything I can get my hands on, and I had this time frame where I'm typing where my hands are hurting.
Yeah.
And they pressed send, and they couldn't take away the fact that I'm the inventor, right? Because I'm the inventor.
Yeah.
It's really the only thing as a scientist that I've been sued for it. I've had lots of different things because it's when you have something everyone wants. I had 7 years of fighting that patent because everyone was fighting it, and I got the patent approved. There were 268 or 300 claims. 168 claims got approved. So that could have been broken up into like 168 patents. It was a really good one.
Yeah.
And so but here's what happened. I wasn't with Clay. We were friends, and we were working together, and I had other things I was working on. So I needed that. Here, I'm the inventor. It's my formula. I needed it for my family and for me. Because I've had cancer, I've had Lyme disease, and I understood the importance. And the more I started understanding, the more that I was like, so I said, you can take it. I don't need to get paid. I just want, I'd like to have 30 to 60 samples, up to 100 bottles a month for my family. So for how many years? Actually, there's still versions of that formula, I think, out there. I've never made $1 from it. I've never made one dime. No, but it was.
But it's in the world. It's in
the world. I'm not going to say the name. I think it's still in the world. I could be wrong. I know there's different simulations of that, and I also know when you do a patent, people learn from it, and then which you want them to because you want to innovate and do it for society. And then I was able to actually change it and filed more, additional ones, but the goal was to give it to everyone. And sometimes I believe whether you're an educator, a creator, a scientist, you should be giving back and you don't need to get paid, right? This is for the world. Let's take it. But things that people don't know about my formulas are I have the ability to understand like the GMO process and the sourcing process. And that's one of the reasons I've worked in so many countries. I've been able to work with some of the top doctors and scientists in the field because of who I've been exposed to.
It's really brilliant what you are creating. The fact that this formula supports the human body as well as plants and animals, and
I believe
you're
spiritually,
really helping to
emotionally,
clean up the internal and external environment. So many people, we are just, even when we're detoxing, there's this, for me anyway, there's this sort of impending doom of like, okay, I'm detoxing now and I'll have to detox again and again and again, and I'm just bombarded by all of these toxins.
Yeah.
And to know that you're out here in this world developing formulas to help clean things up before they even reach our body is absolutely incredible. I'm very passionate about regenerative agriculture. We're going to be talking a lot about food and agriculture,
I'm so
regenerative
glad.
agriculture
Yeah.
at Wellness Week as
So
well.
important. Do you know we bought a
every
farm so
time-
we could work on that?
I just heard about this, and
Yeah, 57 acres. We're
really
planning on
excited.
doing everything to regenerate.
In Missouri.
In Missouri.
All right.
You have to come.
I would love
I
to.
actually have an art studio we're
Okay,
developing.
we
'cause
can play.
I know we can play too. We can do pottery. We're doing pottery wheels and everything.
great.
We have a 37-year-old horse there, Matt.
Oh.
So, but that's what people don't know. And that's when people come to me and they're like, "Can I take this with this medication?" I'm actually using the source, so the isolate, the seed, the oil, even the root, but I'm taking it out and I'm cleaning it and making sure that I have the best source possible and then making sure it's clean. So it can be used with almost everything. That being said, there's some things like warfarin, right? Warfarin, you're not supposed to have like grapefruit, right? So there's certain medication, which is why I love doctors being involved or other scientists or people that understand that you can't. But most of my things are just like you went and found the best source, because my fear was, and this started 20 years ago, and I don't know why, my fear was people would not have enough food or it wouldn't be good enough for them to eat to I know we both don't like the word sustain, but well, I really do mean kind of just be okay.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Just how are we going to be okay?
Very early time to have noticed that,
Yeah.
and it's becoming an increasingly valid.
Now it's increasingly
fear
valid.
and
That's what's
problem.
so
Yeah.
interesting. Like
We
if
saw
you
it
said to
early.
me, why did you know this? I think part of it was I worked at biotech companies where I was exposed to things like cloning or human monoclonal antibodies, right? Retroviruses. And it was a very, I had huge NDAs, isolated community. So I was exposed to all these things. And of course we talked about food.
Yep.
Because people don't know this, but so a human monoclonal antibody a lot of times involves murine, which is mouse DNA, because mouse DNA is the closest to our DNA. And I didn't know that. I was like, wait a minute, I thought it was a beagle or like an ape or like a. No, that's why it's not just that they're not trying to hurt a mouse when they do research. It has the closest. And that was so humbling to me. Like God, so that showed me every animal is so important. It really connected me, honestly, with Buddhism and the Hindu belief, because Christianity doesn't teach us as much. And I didn't convert or anything, but it connected me to the belief process of how important each thing in life is. And then learning even that we share our DNA with a leaf on a tree. So I became hugely dedicated, but my mission was really not to create one company. It was to create in manufacturing different things that could help a lot of companies. And I wanted to take, and that way I take my ego out of it, right? So you have a manufacturing plant and you have patents and you have trademarks and you have formulations, but every company can use it. That was my goal. Of course, my husband had other ideas, and he's fantastic. Like I credit Clay. I give him so much credit for having the stamina and the nerve, because he basically isn't scared of a lot, that he launched a company the month COVID hit. And I even said to him that month, I said, you cannot do this. It's not going to work. I'm really upset. Please don't do this. We're not going to be able to get the products. But he didn't. And he did a fantastic job. I mean, he just did something that I feel like I'm going to be, I never say this, but I don't know if anyone else could have ever done that.
I feel I am just getting to know him, but I think he's driven by inspiration, and I know he's very inspired by you. And when you are driven by inspiration, you don't. Maybe we all experience fear. We all have moments of fear.
Yeah, I know
but that
I do.
inspiration,
I don't,
just you can just drive right past that if you're on a mission. And
he said he heard God. He said he's heard God twice in his life when he met me, and this had nothing to do with the physical attraction. We were on the phone. He said that God told him he was supposed to work with me because of our mission in science. So that's something people don't understand. That respect comes from a series of questions he asked me on a phone call where I was distracted, to be honest. So this is what's so interesting about it. I had probably 12 people in my room, all men. And I was completely distracted by the conversation. Like I was not wanting to be in that conversation. I needed to get back to a board meeting we were having. That was not a fun board meeting. I was like miserable, to be honest, at the time. And Clay, he just said that. And I have to tell you, when people say that to me, I believe them typically. You don't hear that a lot from people, but I do think we were brought together for this mission, to really do some things. And he's not a scientist, but if you ask me, he's one of the smartest scientists I know. And that goes back to my initial point with you. You can be someone that didn't study science, that is a learner. And I mean, you look at historically your most famous people in the world. I mean, you look at Jobs and Gates and Elon and all these people.
Yeah.
So I want everyone to know you can be in any education and be extremely smart in science. What I don't like, though, is when marketing takes something that's not a fact, that can hurt people, and makes it factual. So, for example, I said to you, I would love for everyone to take Clean Slate. Here's the thing. There may be someone in the world that's allergic to a zeolite. There may be, and there are people allergic to vitamin C. And if you said to me, but we need vitamin C, I understand. But some people's bodies just can't react to things as well. So why I'm so excited about working with you and doing, I'm interested in understanding how much I can help and what I can do and how we can work together and what can make this go further, because I believe I know that you're involved in that whole community, but you're taking it and you're really going to try to mesh the worlds.
That's right. I really do appreciate, as somebody who's been a publisher and in marketing and content strategy for 25 years now, focused on health and wellness, I appreciate the biohacking movement.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that it's really empowering people, and it's making health and wellness sexy. It's taking
it does make it
and
sexy.
making it sexy.
Yeah.
And of course, as with all good, as with anything now, as more and more people catch on, people are starting to question the syntax of it. Well, what are we hacking? And our bodies are not machines. We're not meant to be hacked. And I appreciate that, especially when we're talking about women and the female anatomy.
How do you judge in that world, though, if someone's saying something that's factual, or at least
factual or not factual?
Because sometimes you don't know.
This is a great question.
Yeah.
It's a really great question. Is it? Well, okay. I'm going to actually. I'm going to answer it this way. I do believe that credentialed, non-credentialed, marketing-driven, not marketing-driven, all of that is ultimately irrelevant if the individual is empowered to listen to their own body and trust the body's cues.
Yeah.
This is what I have done. I have healed myself in the face of not having the resources I needed in my own personal life. Just 8 years ago, even though I've been steeped in this world, I was confronted with my own health crisis and didn't know where to turn and didn't have access to the information that I needed. And a lot of how I actually healed was by listening to the tiny cues that my body was giving me.
And you listen to your body.
I listened to my body. That is the ultimate expert. Your body right here.
Your body.
That is the ultimate credential. Yeah. It's not an externalized credential. It is, the thing you need to be asking yourself is, do I know how to listen to my own body?
Yeah.
That is what you need to ask first on your health journey.
Absolutely. That's me. Because if you ask me, that I wasn't a scientist. I was a psychologist. I had a master's of science and psychology. And then I kept taking classes and going back to school. But I entered into that world because of the pharmaceutical industry and what they wanted me to do. But before that, I'd had a pituitary prolactinoma. And they were going to have to go in. And they had just started the procedure where you go through the nose instead of going through the brain. So I remember thinking, thank goodness they don't have to go through the brain. And I also had cancer here and all around my nose. I still deal with it, right? And they had done surgeries. And at one point here, they thought they may have to go under my eye, and they were worried about the eye and tons of stuff. And I'm lucky I even have a face intact. Like, it was a lot,
beautiful
right?
One, yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a lot. And I was young. Yeah. I just had a child, so I was like, oh my gosh, I did not want to go through it. I was like, I remember even thinking, do I want to live when I look like this? Like, this is so
completely,
much.
Completely.
It's going to destroy my face. And and then actually, if you look at my back, I have a huge scar on my legs. I had it everywhere because the cancer basically metastasized. And I started reading and understanding. So they were going to have to go in for the surgery. And I, at the time, worked at Mobile Mental Health Center, had Duquesne, my oldest. I wanted to raise him. And I thought, I wasn't really a scientist. I was a psychologist, which is a type of science, right? But I was researching everything. And my great grandmother and grandmother were Cherokee Choctaw Indian. My great great grandmother was a shaman, and so I was raised around all these herbs and plants. And my mother really liked everything holistic. She didn't really like us to go to a doctor. We always had ointments or salves. Aloe vera was what you did for everything.
These things actually work.
I know they actually work. They actually work.
They do.
And so I leaned on that, and I started researching on my own. And at the time, it's not like now, where you could just look it up. So I came up with this grains formula because I was researching. I started really getting into what they were doing in the Middle East and in India and Asia. Because the answers they were giving me here were not what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear chemotherapy. I didn't want to hear radiation. I didn't want to hear brain surgery. And so I gave up everything. And when I say everything, I didn't need anything but greens. I made these green smoothies, which we have relived grains now. And if you ask me why I love that formula, because I really wasn't a scientist when that happened. But my body, I know this sounds really weird, it was like an aha moment. I was like, oh, this is because I researched how it basically detox things to get rid of tumors. And I'm not making the claim I want everyone to know that anything I do gets rid of cancer. I'm not making that at all. But for my body, instinctively, and I mean this, instinctively, I came up with this formula. It tasted horrible. Like the relived grains that we have now probably taste great to me because I'm so used to, drinking it. And I gave it up. I think it was 3 months. I just drank these grains. And I went in, and they went in to do the MRI before I went in, and there was nothing there.
Amazing.
I know. And they were, and I had horrible headaches. When you have a prolactinoma, your breast leak because you're producing prolactin. My growth hormones went up so high, it was like an 18-year-old. That was the only thing I was happy about. Because I was sitting there, I'm like, oh, I have my feet grew. I grew a little bit. I was like, this is great. But that was just me listening. And if I say that to people, they don't understand that. And that's why I listen to people, by the way. That's why I listen. I'm going to say this, Sarah, until it gets to a point where I'm like, I'm sorry, that's just not. Like sometimes people can get me to a point where I'm like, this is not, I don't like it when things go to, spiritually I can handle anything, but when it causes chaos or it's misinformation, I don't do well.
And people, I think people are like, well, how do I know? Or what is the sort of defining, how does this apply to me? So for what I look for, because I see a lot as a publisher, I see a lot of products, I see a lot of experts, I hear a lot of different perspectives on health and wellness, including...
Because there are a lot of great products, right?
That's right, there are a lot of great products. Number one, on the product side, I always look for I look for products owned by the inventors and by inventors who have been there and created something just like you for themselves, for their families. I never promote products on my platform or work with companies that are just taking some that aren't personally connected
a lot of times
and invested in
someone
that product.
Famous.
Because
right, and
that's important. To look for products and to listen to. Can I go on a little tangent? This is a little tangent. I think we've gotten ourselves into quite a mess in the world of advertising and product promotion, where there's this distrust, because ultimately this does always come back to trust. First, trusting ourselves, and also then the next step out is which experts can I trust and which products can I trust. And the world of advertising has done a lot of manipulation. There's been a lot of manipulation over time, and there's also been a pretty fast-moving target as media and publishing evolves with technology. So a big thing that I'm really charged up right now about is actually having a media platform where the content, where the creators are actually earning money just by telling the stories. So the more valid, the more true, the more credible the story is, the more that creator is going to actually earn, because what they're selling is a subscription to Dragonfly TV. They're not selling Root necessarily. Now, Root is a great product because you have this whole circular economy and a way for your consumers to actually earn through sharing the product with people
but I
they
like
love,
your
etc.
model.
This model with the media, though, media has gotten us all in a mess because as we try to monetize media, it's expensive to produce. The media has taken advertising dollars from corporations and from interests that are, again, just far separated from that personal. It's far away from the personal. It's all about money. And now we have this whole group of influencers.
You need to tell people, please don't make it just about money, because
yes, it cannot be.
When you hear people criticize the pharmaceutical biotech, you got to understand that applies to all of us. We can't just make something up to make money.
Completely.
You're impacting someone's life that maybe doesn't know any different.
Completely.
So go on, but I want everyone to hear that, because like I really need people to hear that. I do believe, people call it karma, I don't know what. I believe energetically we're responsible for what we do.
Yeah.
So when we die, I believe we are responsible for our lives here. So if you make something up that hurts someone,
that's right.
It's your intention.
That's
you know that, right?
Yes.
You have to have the right intention.
It always has to be infused with the right intention.
I like your model, though, because you're basically getting people to be educated by the top people that are sincere, and they will recognize that.
Yes, and to help to create livelihood for people who are really interested in being the expert, writing the books, doing the science, having a platform where there's a direct monetization of that. Yeah. What happens whenever we become several steps removed, it's not only about money. There's a whole chasm there.
Yeah.
So we need to bring everything. I'm trying to bring everything back to center. Yeah. My event is in my hometown of Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah. I love Boulder.
Next, I want to come to Nashville. I want to help you guys create one in Nashville.
Okay. We'll have one here.
We all need to come home. We all need to do more things right at home.
We do.
Our media needs to be, if the content creators need to be paid directly by the media platform for creating the media, not three people in the middle getting paid and then the content creator over here actually having to manipulate the content itself to ensure that they get paid. Everyone needs to take care of their families. Everyone does need to earn a living and be tended to.
And not just one person.
That's right. That's right. So we're democratizing media. We're taking it away from all the power in the hands of one large media, what's become a conglomerate.
Well, there's actually, I was informed on this today yesterday, because we had 3 news stations here. I didn't know there's 3 main media companies in the world.
It's scary.
I didn't know, and scary. They control everything.
They control everything.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that Ted Turner, I'm friends with Laura Turner. I don't know if she's coming or not. I know her CEO is, but I knew he handled, all of the stuff he developed. I don't know why I didn't realize there were 3 main companies and they control everything that's going out. It makes sense though, because but I got to tell you, everything that's going out right now is so controversial and it's caused so much chaos and anger. Yeah. I'm frustrated about it. Yeah. So when people ask me if I've seen things, usually I haven't. And you want to know why? I can't rely on. I'm so tired of the far left or far right telling me this story, and I'm like, listen, I don't know, because do you know that, like, if you're on this side, you listen to this.
Oh, completely.
And then the other, and then the 2 sides never come together. And I'm like, can we all just talk about where you got your information where you got yours? And then my other experience in my life, just so you know, is I actually have been to a lot of these places. I know a lot of these people. Mm-hmm. I have I've got to work through this in my heart, because now I'm at a stage where I'm meeting a lot of people that are on a pretty high platform, that people are making comments on social media about, I'm just going to say this, ludicrous comments.
Yes.
That these people are evil, or that they've given their hearts to something else.
Yep.
And everyone's buying in. And then I meet them, and they're amazing people. And I sat there the other day, like I was in LA last week, and I really met with amazing people. I want to see how I can say this. I know we need to end, but I've got to figure out how to say this, because this is so important. I'm on a computer all the time. I research things all the time. And then I do backgrounds on that research, right? And thankfully I've had quite a bit of education and knowledge where I can understand stuff. But I try never to make judgments on people. And right now in our society, and I don't know why this is happening, people are, whether you're staying home and you have nothing else to do, or whether you're working and you just want to create this scenario, but there's just so much hatred about people. And I just, speaking for me, because our platform has grown so much, there's so many things people have said about me that are so inaccurate and are not true. Like, I have one mission, and it's to really impact the people that want to be impacted so we can be healthier, right? It's really simple. It's really not even complicated, actually. And it's sincere. So there's not another mission. If you ask me, could I retire right now? Absolutely. Could I go live in Italy right now? Right? Absolutely. I have 4 children. They're the 18-year-old's not quite an adult, or the 19-year-old, but they're almost there. I'm choosing to do this. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, 100%.
So to be criticized, and some of these musicians and actresses, they're choosing to make an influence too. So I wish people would not make statements they don't know about just because they've read it somewhere or someone else has created gossip.
Yeah, it's a horrible gossip game. I've actually
In
been
science
the target
too, you know
of
that.
this. I've been. We'll have to have a whole nother conversation about it. So, at Wellness Week in Boulder, and on the Dragonfly TV platform, and in the Dragonfly Connect platform, which are both launching at Wellness Week, it's all about finding other people who are living in this heart resonance, who are connected to a divine purpose, who really are here to be of service to the world, and who are also really wanting to live their best lives so that they can take care of their families and thrive in whatever way that means.
And honestly,
it's
be
gonna
happy
be an
too
incredible
and healthy.
group of people there.
Yeah,
you included.
I'm gonna be there, and I'm so excited about this because I think that if you can get that group together, there's such criticism and cynicism. Like, people think there's no way someone really wants to help people. And I'm like, wait a minute,
You know why, though? They can't hate you when they know you in person. I think part of the reason we have a lot of haters, well, there are a couple of, everyone's afraid right now. We have a lot going on. People are stressed. Also, people are really toxic right now, where there are terrible ingredients lurking in your
food and
everything
air.
that you order at a restaurant practically,
Yeah.
and most of what you buy at conventional grocery stores.
But even
in the
at
air
organic
that we're
foods,
breathing,
you know that.
yes,
Because we're
it's
impacted.
The wax, everything. So people are really just under, there's a lot of burden that people are under, and it's that aggravated. To me, society is just aggravated.
That's how I feel.
I get aggravated when I'm overwhelmed. So I do say to everybody, if you're feeling aggravated, get out your scrub brush, move the lymph on your body in the shower.
Go work out, go run.
Take your flax seeds the first half of the month if you're a woman. Do the things.
My grandmother taught me that, by the way.
That one really works.
It really does.
Really does.
She put flaxseed in her cereal until she died.
She
was always like, Christina. So I have flaxseed, of course, at my house. I try to put it in everything. I have like cumin seed. I have all the different, even cocoa. I know they're trying to get us to.
And surround yourself with positive people and positive media. So we're going to do this thing at Wellness Week together, and we're going to share it with the world. So people who cannot come to Boulder, Colorado, can find us in the next city as we grow this concept in person. We'll also create positive media so people can find each other and connect and go have lunch and be together in their own communities, and share more content in authentic ways where we're removing a lot of the grittiness that comes with monetization in the current media platforms, et cetera. And also, ultimately, I just want to end by saying I'll say thank you at the very end, but the last point that I want to come back all the way around full circle to is that the most important thing is to trust yourself. And so the most important advice that I have for anyone as an expert in the larger realm of all of the content out there, what I see that's most valid is anything having to do with listening to yourself. Check in every time you hear something. Does it feel valid and right to me? And if there's any part of me that says no, I don't need to go be a hater on social media about it, but I can just say no. I can just say no to those things that don't feel right, and keep searching and keep listening. And sometimes the small things are actually the most impactful, as you described in your own story. It was the grains right there in your own backyard and your own formula that helped you. And maybe people thought you were crazy at first, but now everybody knows you're just a genius.
I didn't even talk to anyone about it. Do you know that? Because I said something, I think, to my mom, and I think, everybody would have thought I was crazy.
Right.
I was in Mobile, Alabama, and they would be like, she's crazy. I instinctively knew, kind of like Clay said he knew when he met me. I just knew. And I thank you for saying that. I try to tell people that all the time. You're in control of your body. You're the only one that knows it. It doesn't. When they say, well, I have to go to an expert, I'm like, well, wait a minute. You're an expert, right? And that's why media content matters, though, because they have been exposed to stuff, and that imprints on your brain. You see those words, you see those thoughts, and
that media is based on fear and reliance. And
a lot of media is created to make money. So,
exactly.
and here's how I feel: money is needed to create livelihoods. I agree with you 100%, but do it the right way.
That's right. That's right.
And that's what you're doing.